Are we actually evolving as a species, or is technology leading us in the wrong direction? Now, I've come to Pembrey Circuit in Wales to find out the answer with the help of two unicorns. The M4 CSL, only 1,000 made, only 100 made it to these shores. The M3 GTS, only 150 were ever made. These are incredibly rare cars. They are the pinnacle of BMW engineering. This one even holds the record at the Nürburgring, the fastest M car ever made. This film is for the BMW lovers out there. We're going to pit old against new in the ultimate cage fight. Love it! This is the right place to test these cars. Pembrey Circuit in South Wales, it's a wonderful spot. You get used to seeing helicopters parked at the sides of some of these flash tracks, but not here. You get tractors with forklifts. It's an earthy circuit. Line is critical. You've got to really put the car on its nose on the brakes into the hairpin, and then you just start building speed all the way through these connected corners, and you've got to be extremely precise with where you put the car. This track isn't decided in terms of speed by seconds, it's all down to hundredths of a second. I'm just glad I'm starting in the E92, and I'm probably going to upset a lot of BMW fans when I say that this, for me, was the first proper BMW. It's kind of like a quantum leap of engineering. It was like going from the bow and arrow to a Tommy gun. The E92 really put BMW on the map for me in a way that I just hadn't experienced with anything else. Even the E46, I know it's a popular car, but it just didn't do it for me. Centre of gravity was too high. You just couldn't put the power down well, and it lolled around and slopped around in the corners. I'll never forget climbing aboard one of these for the first time at the three-way test we ran with Top Gear at the Ascari Resorts. BMW versus Audi versus Mercedes. And getting in one of these and being completely blown away and smitten with what they'd done. They lowered the centre of gravity, installed for the first time a V8 engine, 4-litre, linear power, fantastic braking, and incredible poise with intuitive handling. Could really feel everything the car was doing. I just thought it was a master stroke. This version is the enhanced, ultimate sort of track edition of that E92, a real celebration of the BMW technology and racing heritage. So the engine was grown to 4.4 litres, giving it a total of 450 brake horsepower and a 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. Very impressive statistics. And the car was lightened 1,530 kilograms, 70 kilos lighter than the standard E92. Very hard to pull weight out of these cars, and BMW spared no expense. They worked on the exhausts, they're made of titanium. They really modified as many parts as they could, and particularly getting weight out of the high up parts of the car to get it low and give it that really, really good handling and cornering, reducing the effect of the centrifugal force, pushing you wide in the corners. A few other things that maybe I'm not so keen on. The scaffolding rig in the back to shore up the suspension, give that chassis as much rigidity as possible. It does have its place, but it's just a bit ugly, and it means you can't put passengers in the back and scare the life out of them, which is a bit of a shame. Also, you've got the slightly comical rear wing on the back. Looks like a bit of a bolt-on, but it's adjustable, and because it comes from BMW, I believe it's actually functional, unlike the thing that we attached to the boot in the diesel BMW 3 Series we ran with Top Gear in the brick car 24 hours, which was a sort of afterthought. And when I did a back-to-back on it, actually proved that it made the car slower. This one I'm sure works, and you can trim it. If you've got an Allen key, you go to a track day and you want a little bit less understeer, well, you can take that rear wing down and make whoopee in the fast corners. You can also adjust the adjustable dampers, so you can really tune the suspension and hopefully try not to confuse yourself by making changes that you may later come to regret. Personally, I like the way BMW set this car up, which is quite a neutral balance, but wonderfully agile and you get this fantastic feeling through the steering wheel. This wheel is talking to me. It is a divining rod. I can feel the connection to the front tyres. And even though it's rear wheel drive, the car isn't crushing the rear tyres and giving me lots of understeer coming through the corners. I can trim everything, can trim the attitude on the throttle. There's a nice lean from the back of the car as you tilt it into these faster corners and balance it on the power on the way out. This car is very user-friendly. It's talking to you, chattering away, and that V8 is just booming in the back. It's a fantastic sound, and because they've taken out things like noise deadening, you do feel that really rumbling through the car. Well, one of the first things you notice when you climb aboard the M4 is that it's much more like a modern car. You've got the creature comforts, the bucket seats. Well, this one's made of carbon, and you can actually tilt it as well as raise it separately as opposed to being crunched into one position in the M3. But actually, when you're moving around in the corners, this seat doesn't hold you quite as well as the one in the M3, so debatable which is the better one. But still, the seat's very comfortable. You can adjust the steering wheel and everything, so you can put the ergonomics exactly where you want them. And the other features in the interior, just a bit more refined, because you haven't got that enormous roll cage blocking out the rear seats, which aren't seats in this car, but it's a usable space. You can stick your bags in there, and I personally prefer that, because what they've done with this car is they've built in the strength into the chassis, which is where it should be. Out of sight, out of mind, doing its job in the integral structure of the car, so you don't have to stare at it. But some people like staring at scaffolding, and fair play. That's not the only thing that's sort of baked into the car. The aerodynamics are more subtle on this one as well. You've got this ducktail at the back as opposed to the bolt-on little wing on the M3, and it's just more subtle and sophisticated. So you've got a car that's got the performance, but you don't really feel that it's screaming it at you, although the front end is pretty aggressive with those splitters. Automatically, just driving this thing out onto the track, it's just got a different vibe. This feels more like a GT3 racing car from Le Mans than an adapted street car that's been tuned for the track. This feels like an outright racing car in many ways. That's not a bad thing. This car immediately gives me the impression it's capable of cornering at a higher speed. It just feels very light on its feet through the corners, and it's just taking it so easily. And I'm glad to hear it, because this car's got a lot more power than the M3, 100 horsepower more, 550 brake, that's a lot. But it weighs more. Now, although the CSL weighs 100 kilograms lighter than the CS, and that's a fantastic job by BMW. They've removed weight wherever they could, from noise deadening to the titanium exhausts, you name it. They've stripped it out to get the weight as light as possible and to get the weight as low as possible. It still weighs 100 kilograms more than the old M3 GTS. So weight does count against you. It's very reactive on the throttle. And the engine in this car is a sophisticated beast. Twin turbocharged, inline 6-cylinder, 3-litre engine that's been highly tuned to knock out this power in a very linear form. So despite the turbos being a modern engine, they've worked that in so that you get the drivability as well as the juice when you're on the gas. But it's very, very sharp on the throttle. Almost too sharp. It is quite aggressive when you get jump on the power. So I'm very much bracing my leg so that I can be sensitive with the throttle. The chassis itself as well is more aggressive. I'm feeling the bumps, they're a lot harsher. And again, I'm bracing myself in the car so that my inputs are true and they're not being influenced by the bumps in the track. And I'm in a fairly low traction control setting, but it's interfering quite a lot. It's having to work very hard to control that 550 brake horsepower, unlike in the M3 where there were fewer modes and I wasn't really concerned by leaving the traction control on. Whoa, because once I lost the tail there, the weight just started to get carried away across the rear axle and knocked me wide at the apex. So This is definitely a bit more work involved in getting the most of the performance out of this car. Bloody hell. It makes you pay attention. It's going to be interesting to see how these two compare on the stopwatch, because that will have an impact. You've got considerably more weight, you've also got more power. Which one will win? Who knows? Now, it's all very well talking about statistics and feelings, but at the end of the day, that's all they are. And really, the stopwatch doesn't lie. Standing start, because I want to feel what the traction's like, and I think it's important to do a little bit of drag racing, and find out basically which of these two cars is the fastest, and go from there. All right, boys.
3, 2, 1, go.
Tell you what, that is intense. That is really intense. This car is so stiffened and supported that actually when you really push, it's just incredible how much grip there is and how much support there is in these corners. I've spent most of my life going around this track in a Formula 3 car, and I thought no road car's ever going to feel like that. I'm really shocked and surprised by how much performance this car really has in it. It's not what I expected. So found myself concentrating quite hard about where I was putting the car because I was going way too quick to make a mistake and drop a wheel on the grass. So I'll be interested to see what that time is. I'm fairly familiar with what car can do what time around here. I suspect this is going to be below a minute. What time was that?
1 minute 12.
Well, that was bollocks. 1 minute 12.
3, 2, 1, go.
That was better off the line. Not sure I can brake any later than I did last time, but here we go. Stop. I tell you what, there are just places around the track where I thought, I've overcooked that, and I am going to get punished, because normally with a road car especially, once the weight goes in the wrong direction, you're normally playing massive catch-up, and you run out of space so quickly here. I was dreading it, and this car, it just tidies itself up. So I've got a lot of time for this car. The little Tango has got it where it counts. Now that M4, that has got a tough act to follow, so I'll be really interested to see how that compares. Now BMW only gave the CSL moniker to 2 other models, the E46 and the Batmobile, so this car has a lot to live up to, and it's already proven it when it needed to, but this is Wales, and this is about to get real.
3, 2, 1, go.
Too much wheel spin. Oh, the brakes are good. Really good. Too good. I braked too early. Well, that was pretty wild. A lot more going on in that lap. So even though I'm driving it in M2, I've dialed down the traction to pretty much minimum. So traction control is only on by a thread, 1 out of 10. I might increase that to 2 for the second run because I'm braking free even in 4th or 5th gear at very high speed, so when I wouldn't expect it. So a couple of adjustments, and I think I can make the most of what this technology is designed for.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, that's better. That's much better. Right, traction dialed in. That braking is just so good. Clipping that curb. Beast. What an absolute beast. But it's definitely one of those cases where the adjustability in this car really pays off, and just fine-tuning things like the traction control for this surface and being able to perfect the launch off the line, the traction coming out of these tight twisties is really incredible. But let's find out. The watch never lies. 108 versus 110. 2 seconds faster on a more standard Michelin tyre. The PS4S does not have as much grip as a Cup 2, so that's quite remarkable. Also, I'm quite surprised that the runs that I did in this car were all within about a 1/10 of a second. Very, very close. So despite the fact you have to manhandle this car and really switch on to get the most out of it, actually you can drive it quite consistently. Anyway, there you go. Wonderful technology. When it works well.
Right, so we've seen which one was faster. Now let's see which one's best at putting a smile on your face when you flick off the safety catch.
This car has been asking for it all morning, so I have finally turned this thing off. So now we're as nature fully intended, and it is a beast. So this could be a fairly brief 5 minutes of destruction. I don't care what anyone says, there's nothing is quite like a BMW. It's just what they're built for. They're so playful. Come on, Grandad. Of course, these Cup 2 tyres are really enjoying being driven like this. They don't want to do it, they just want to grip. But there's always a way past that. So in answer to my question earlier about human evolution, it really depends on your definition of progress. If your vision of the future is setting lap records around the Nürburgring and owning the fast lane of every motorway you come to when it's actually open, then this is the car for you. However, if you're looking for a more subtle experience, looks aside, then you can wind back the clock with this V8 E92. So, which would you choose?